This is Not Quite Dead, Episode 23, Contrarian.
Hey, it's me. Jesus fuck. Right, so I've been looking more into our friend Dr. Bonham. I've managed to pull together a few profiles from what I could find of records online. The patients he was treating back in the 90s, it seems like they're all kids. The oldest was 14. There's the girl whose stuff I found first, the one with leukemia. Then there's a boy with complex heart failure, another boy who was in a car accident, a girl who had a serious fall. There's not a huge amount online, but I found a bunch of news reports and some charity stuff connected to them, you know. The kid in the car accident, his name was George Felton, and he's a woodworker now, and he makes videos about it on YouTube of him turning bowls and stuff on a lathe. Kind of hypnotising, actually. Anyway, in a couple of the videos, he actually talks about what it was like being sick when he was a kid, and he says he has some fleeting memories of his experimental treatment, but that's it. He and his family ended up getting a lot of compensation after Bonham's licence was revoked, it turns out, but George seems pretty uncomfortable with that, you know? He says he's glad he got the treatment. It's interesting. A lot of the articles about these kids, they talk about others, ones I couldn't find any evidence for. There's mentions of kids with brain tumours, complex medical needs. Once they mention a girl with cystic fibrosis, which I'd be really interested to read about, and there's absolutely nothing at all about any kids that Bonham saw that might not have made it. So, it's interesting and useful to a limited degree. It's hard to take this stuff I'm reading about Bonham here and compare it to what was on Vime's patient's notes for that fucking torture that he was committing upon those vampires. The thing is, though, the reports on the humans he had taken, they seem really different. It's like he's picking them up off the street after accidents, like, I don't know, like he's wired into the radio system for ambulances or something. Maybe that's how he's getting them. If he was navigating the medical system before, he could do it again, and the kinds of experiments and procedures in those notes, yeah, you need equipment. They're talking about monitoring heart rates, testing blood, even observing brain activity. That's a full setup. You'd need connections to get it. It's expensive. And there's all the other doctors he's employing too. Vimes, he and the others might be how Bonham's getting access to the kind of equipment he's using. And if they've got all of that, it stands to reason that they could have access to an ambulance too. It'd be convenient for transport and monitoring. They're big. People are used to seeing them lingering around the edge of streets. People are used to seeing them lingering on street corners, you know? They blend right in. The doctors he's working with might even have other jobs. Maybe that's how they're getting access to these people. They could work in mainstream hospitals. I can't imagine being convinced to do this kind of work, but okay. So this is pure conjecture, right? But what I'm imagining is that it's kind of like what happened with me and Cass. I mean, not exactly like that. I don't think they're fucking Bonham or anything. At least I hope they're not. But, I think maybe they see the half-mates. Maybe that's enough to at least inspire them to listen to whatever Bonham's argument is. And then they get pulled in. I do have another thought about it too, but it's more far-fetched. It feels kind of stupid to even say it, really. But maybe the doctors, maybe they're there because Bonham helped them. Maybe he saved them. Or maybe he didn't, not completely, and they need the blood. They keep coming back because he needs their help, and yeah. Whatever is going on here, there are layers to it. I don't know that I can work it all out without, actually going there, without watching and seeing what's going on, you know? Which is probably what Casper was doing. Oh, Cass. I'm so sorry. What did you get caught up in? What is this stuff? And why didn't you tell me about it? Maybe there was some kind of way for me to help. I don't know vampires, I don't know these experiments, but I know medicine. I know people. Maybe if they've got connections to the hospital, maybe there was a way I could have helped him get the information faster. I know he'd got himself a job as a porter, but he'd not been there long, and it's not the kind of job where you make those deep bonds with people. It's good for getting to meet a wide range of folks fast, and it's great if the main reason you're there is to steal blood from unconscious patients. But I don't know how I feel about it all, I guess. How do I trust that now? How do I don't even know what to think about Casper's job anymore. I don't know how to feel about it all. How do I trust that he was doing what he said he was doing? There's so much that's been recontextualised. There are so many questions I have that only Casper could answer. And he can't because he's... Fuck. Wow. How am I in the position where my only hope is that he's not had his brain cut out piece by piece whilst he was still conscious? Neige would be more worried, wouldn't he? If he thought that was a real possibility, he'd be more worried. Which stands to reason. Why doesn't he think that's a real possibility? Honestly, though, there's no point trying to examine Neige's motivations here. He's an ancient vampire I've known for less than 3 months. How the fuck could I even begin to unpack that, frankly? Casper, though. I like to think maybe I've got a shot at understanding what was motivating him, maybe. Or like, I should have. But there's the Casper I know. And there's the Casper that he thought he was. And then, as well, there's the Casper that Neige knew. The one that slept with priests and swam across oceans and lived. And of course, there's the Casper that's a liar. Maybe Neige is lying too. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's lying about some stuff. Or at the very least, there's a lot he's keeping from me. I mean, like, logistically, he's just had so much life that there's no way he couldn't keep things from me. But I don't know. Sometimes I get the sense he's talking around things. That there's stuff he's deliberately excluding when I ask him about himself. When I ask him about Cass, too. I don't even know if it's, like, possible to know someone like Neige well enough to understand his motivations. If he's telling the truth about how much of his life he's just completely forgotten, well, maybe not even Neige understands Neige's motivations. What's not up for debate is that Neige said Casper was looking for someone. He said it in the last recording. I went back through my recordings to check, and yeah. Well, Neige left me a message. I didn't realise, and I feel so stupid. I don't know what the point of it was like, but that's just Neige, really, isn't it? What's the point in anything he says or does? And he has the nerve to call me ridiculous. These things together. I could take the car, go back to York, speak to Roz and Eponine. Cass met with them before he disappeared. They must have known what he was doing. He told me he was the one vampires called when something was going wrong, like he was some kind of visiting avenger. Neige said he was hunting Dr. Bonham, hunting him down because of these experiments. Neige doesn't want me looking into the science of vampires. Maybe he didn't want Cass looking into it either. Maybe that's what he was doing. He was working as a porter. He did what Bonham was doing, in a way, when he saved Linda, didn't he? All the vampires I have spoken to seem to know that blood can heal humans. Admittedly, it's not that many vampires that I've spoken to. Just 4. And if things are as disparate and as desperate as they seem from Ross and Eponine's collection of new strays, then maybe the knowledge that the blood can save people isn't common. Maybe... I don't know. Cass would never hurt anyone. Cass would never hurt anyone the way that Dr. Bonham was hurting those other vampires. I read the other notes that Neige found. The ones about the vampires. They're awful. As bad as the first. One's a little bit easier to read because she dies before they decide to try hemopheresis on her. The other guy lived 3 days into stage 3. None of the reports describe what stage 3 is. I've tried to look up what hemopheresis actually could be, but according to the internet it doesn't exist. There's plasmapheresis, where they take plasma out of the body, remove the antibodies to treat autoimmune disorders. I've heard about that. It's not used very widely. It's popular in Japan for some conditions, but overall it's just a bit of medical obscura. If you break down the word, hema, it's Greek for blood, and then there's apheresis, as in Greek for take from, so take blood from. Only apheresis is mostly used to mean taking blood from a donor so it can be separated into its components, like platelets, plasma, and so on. Sorry, I'm just... it's been a long day. Stage 1 of hemopheresis is exsanguination and salination, according to the chart for subject 105. Exsanguination is draining the blood, and salination, well, usually it means adding salt to stuff, but here I think they're specifically talking about adding saline. I'm assuming so anyway. Like they're draining the vampires of the blood and filling them up with fucking saline solution. Christ. Anyway, they don't describe what happens in stages 2 or 3. But 3 seems to be much longer than stages 1 and 2, and both 105 and 84 die during it, whatever it is. In plasmapheresis, the blood is pumped out of the body. The plasma is separated out and replaced with healthy plasma, and then the blood is pumped back in. Sort of similar to dialysis, where the blood is pumped out and cleaned the way that kidneys are supposed to clean the blood. So, I wasn't able to find much about Dr. Bonham online, like I said, because most of his work happened before the internet was really a thing. He called the treatment he was offering to those patients that I was talking about before in the 80s and 90s, the kids, he called that hemoprosthesis, which is like the opposite of hemopheresis, because prothesis in Greek means adding to, which makes perfect sense because he seems to have been treating them by giving them his blood in microdoses, which is what I was trying to do with Cass's blood. And I was diluting it with saline. So it's sound in principle. Maybe drinking it was the mistake I made. Maybe administering it through IV would have... Neige? Is that you?
Am I interrupting?
Yeah, but it's fine.
You are ignoring me.
Patently not ignoring you. Actually, currently in the process of directly conversing with you, in fact.
No. My advice. You are ignoring my advice.
Oh.
Oui. Did I not tell you this would not help?
No, you've never said that specifically before.
Contrarian.
What did you just call me?
I know why it is compelling to look into the mechanics, but I promise...
It will only lead me down a dark path. Did you know that Cass was saving people with the blood, Neige? One I saw with my own eyes, but who knows how many more?
I did not know for sure. Not until...
You said he was hunting Dr. Bonham. Are you sure that's what he was doing?
You are not suggesting that he would work with such a person.
I don't know what I'm suggesting.
You know Casper would not do such a thing.
Do I know that? Really? I feel like I don't know Casper at all. You didn't tell me about you. You didn't tell me what he was really doing here. What else about him don't I know?
Do not insult him this way. Casper was a lot of things, but he would not have been party to this kind of cruelty. You know him, Moncala. Perhaps not entirely, but do entirely knows anyone.
You know, he said to me once that he thought whoever was making the half-maids was trying to find a way to make the benefits of vampire blood on humans permanent without turning them. That would be consistent with the kind of experiments Dr. Bonham was running on humans before. But what's hemopheresis then? A treatment for vampires which happens in stages? One of the sets of notes you gave me talks about taking out cardiac muscles and replacing them with a pump. Vampire hearts only beat when we're eating. Whatever this treatment is, it needs functioning circulation.
What does this matter?
We were talking about how we need to know what we're dealing with. I'm trying to find that out.
Whatever atrocities they commit are not relevant. We need to know about the layout of the building, the situation with their security, where they are holding the vampires, this kind of thing.
The building.
Oui? Stands to reason they are not performing their experiments out in the middle of a field.
It's just funny that you'd say the, you know? Almost like you know which building it is.
Don't be ridiculous.
Is it ridiculous?
I am not going to dignify that with a response. I do not need to justify myself to you. I do not discourage your pursuit of this because I think it is not worthy of interest. I discourage it because I think it is a distraction.
Maybe I need a distraction.
No, you want one. But you cannot save Casper this way.
Says who?
Me, évidemment.
Don't fucking sass me.
Excusez-moi. Sass. What is this, mon petit? Yes, sass, he says. Future pute. As though he is not brand new to this life and I am not older than fucking agriculture.
How the fuck am I supposed to have a conversation with you then, huh?
I don't know what you mean.
If I'm supposed to just, what, trust you implicitly because you're like 1 billion years old, how the fuck am I supposed to talk to you, ever?
Vermitaquel. You are right.
Thanks.
You can be so like him sometimes.
Who?
Casper. What?
You say that like he's dead.
No, I just...
What?
Il me manque.
What does that mean?
C'est sans importance. Does not matter. What do you want from me?
What?
No, you heard me. What is it that you want from me, Alfie? When you ask me these things, when you push me like this, what is it that you're expecting me to say?
Sorry,
You just what?
I don't know.
No, you don't.
Now you sound like him.
Like Casper.
There were things he couldn't say. I get why. I get why there are things you can't say too, but it feels shitty to be on the other side of it. I'm a vampire now, you don't have to protect me.
You are still so new to this life. I don't want to frighten you.
Good news, or bad news, depending on how you look at it, I'm already frightened. Everything is terrifying. How many times do you need me to tell you how shit scared I am for it to sink in?
It's complicated.
Yeah, I get that, I do. But I don't like it when you're keeping things from me.
That is fair.
If you could just be honest about it, that would make a big difference.
How can I be honest about it without simply telling you what I should not?
You can just say, sorry, I can't talk about this, instead of trying to gaslight me into thinking I'm overreacting or reading too much into stuff, maybe.
Gaslight?
Oh, it's this film. No. You know what? You can just Google that one. Have fun.
I'm sure I will.
You actually won't.
You're still upset.
Yeah. I'm still upset. If Cass saved Linda as an experiment, if she wasn't the only one, maybe I could have helped. I'm a nurse. It's what I do. I'm interested in this. I want to help people.
La morale. You can, but not this way.
What do you think it's a distraction from?
Processing the situation. Learning how to live with yourself as a vampire.
What do you want me to do? Wander around an empty mountain range for a few years? We're a bit short on them in Yorkshire.
You listen to it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sorry you were alone for so long.
It has been a long time. And it is not your fault.
I know. I'm still sorry. I wish it hadn't been like that.
I do not know what I wish. My life has been long. Has it been full? I do not know. I do not think I've been alive this long because I am particularly deserving of it. It's not because I am clever, either. Though I have become so now, even if I never was before. It is luck. Luck and tenacity.
Are you, the oldest one? Do you think?
The oldest vampire?
Yeah.
Perhaps. It is a possibility.
That must be lonely.
At times.
You called me mon coeur.
I did.
Yeah, you did. A few times, actually.
There is no conversation to be had.
Okay.
Dolphin of distractions. Tell me what you have been learning about this, then.
About this? About Dr. Bonham?
Oui?
Well, you must have heard what I was saying about what hemophilia means. You're already at the top of the stairs by then.
And you noticed. Très bien, I'm proud.
Oh, shut it. Right. So, I'm just trying to work out why, you know? Bonham was experimenting on saving humans. That was Cass's theory for whatever this project was about. But there's a lot of thought put into what he was doing with the vampires, so what's it meant to achieve? Bonham himself is a vampire, I'm pretty sure. The point doesn't seem to be killing vampires, though he doesn't seem to particularly value their lives, not if he's willing to take out their brains piece by piece.
I agree, this would suggest not.
So, why? They've been taking vampires for months and making a bunch of half-maids. None of this has made any sense to me. Why would you do it? If it was just about torturing vampires, then why would you be trying to make more of them? It doesn't make sense. Unless they're trying to make a cure for vampirism. The half-maids, maybe they're not proper half-maids at all. Maybe they're vampires who they've tried to cure, but it wasn't working yet. Maybe that's...
No, arrête.
What?
I'd been hoping you had come to this conclusion on your own. But you're so young still. You are so naive. You do not yet understand.
What don't I understand?
They are not trying to make a cure.
But...
I know this to be true, without a shadow of a doubt.
How can you possibly know that?
Because there has been a cure for almost a century.
What?
It is not even very difficult. You take a pacemaker or some other way to stimulate the beating of the heart, which you can do by drop feeding a vampire blood, if necessary, and a round of chemotherapy.
What?
It takes about 4 days, and it is effective at treating the virus to a success of almost 90%, with no amounts of the virus present in the body at the end of treatment. A remarkably reliable course of therapy.
But...
Alfie, When the virus takes hold in the body, it does not leave our cells alive. Do you understand?
But
It becomes us. We become it. We cannot live without each other. To cure a vampire, whether by treatment like this, or by crushing his brain, or letting him starve to death, the answer is always the same. The vampire dies.
but that doesn't make sense.
There is something I have to see. I will need to take the car. You can come too if you would like. I would like to show you.
Okay.
Not Quite Dead is written, performed and edited by A. Neige under a Creative Commons 4.0 attribution license. You can support the show and get early access to new episodes at patreon.com/Hanging Sloth Studios. Live, laugh, bite.